All right, go ahead.
So, good morning, Joe. Good to see you, sir. So thank you. Thanks, everybody, for allowing me to be back on the call, Dan. There's the normal thing we have is that the slaughterhouse of failure is not in my destiny, but I will persist until I succeed. But I'm purposely doing, we purposely are going to do something. We say the slaughterhouse of failure is not in my destiny. We will persist until we succeed. So I'm trying to say that our success depends on our team. Our success depends on how capable we are of transmitting leadership skills to the team and to the people that we have around us. Dan?
No, exactly. And, you know, with Lawrence coming back, things were going so well with him, without him gone, that I really did question whether or not I was going to let him do these calls with me. But today we want to talk about leadership and, you know, how leading people is really our biggest lead measure in this business and our success. And, you know, lead can be an acronym for 4 different things in helping us lead others. And L stands for learning new skills. So as leaders, we need to constantly be learning new skills so that we can master those skills as best we can. And then obviously be teaching those to our team members and whoever we're in business with to be successful. E is for educating our teams. And we also need to educate ourselves, not only with what we know, but giving them the tools that they need to be successful in this business or in life in general. And then A is adapting to change. How are we adapting to change? You know, we did a great job with that during COVID. We're adapting to change right now. We're adapting to change every single day. And then D is developing ourselves and developing our people. So what are we doing to help not only develop ourselves? You know, part of that is learning new skills. Part of that is educating our teams and, you know, how we adapt to change. But we also need to be thinking about how we're developing our team members, how we're developing our business. And before we can lead others, we really have to learn to lead ourselves.
100%. We were just, Dad and I were just chatting a few minutes ago that, you know, we look at life coaches. We hear about life coaches that are, you know, 27 years old or 25 years old, who've never really done anything, but they have all the theories on the planet. They've read a couple of books and they know all the theories about everything. But you can't really be a life coach and lead unless you've actually been in the trenches and that you've actually experienced some serious reversals and you've experienced the emotional roller coaster of success and failure. And I think this is the big difference. And this is why it's important for us to be able to lead by example, and where we have the experience in what we're doing to be able to positively show what is possible and how it can be done. And the whole thing about a team is for everybody to row, to try and get everybody to row in the same direction with the same force and the same consistency so that the boat goes forward. And this is really what teamwork is. It's about us being able to transmit and communicate adequately using the learning skills that Dan's talking about. And these are lead measures, new learning skills. For example, right now, I believe we're going into recession. When COVID hit, Dan said, don't waste this pandemic. Don't waste this pandemic. Crisis. Don't waste this crisis, because that was pivoting to something new. Right now, we've got to realize that we're going into I think, a recession. So learning new skills, learning how to apply whatever we've got in our businesses, educating our teams, but we've got to educate ourselves first. So we've got to really know what we're doing so that we can help to educate other people, but we've got to be first ones. Adapt to change. We've got to be the first ones to be able to do that. and to learn how did it happen? What did we learn from that, so that we can actually help the people around us and develop the people, developing ourselves first. So, I think this lead is an excellent subject that there is, and it's learning, educating, adapting, and developing. And that's what lead is. And then we go from there.
Yeah, and most people are familiar with the phrase, those who can't do, teach, right? So, sorry, somebody just texted me something funny. Those who can't do, teach. Ironically, it's the converse that creates dysfunction in business, right? So often the people that are out there doing, they get stuck doing and doing because they don't know how to teach their skills and knowledge to other people, their employees, their colleagues. And so talented people end up really being overtasked. And then, we suffer because of that inefficiency. So we really need to be learning new skills, learning how to delegate, learning how to communicate, learning to teach, and then teach those learned lessons to others. It's not that the top performers can't teach. They've just never been taught how to teach, right? And so we need to constantly be teaching ourselves how to teach and how to lead others. This is a leadership business, right? It's not all about us, it's about everybody else. And as leaders, we need to portray that to our team in a way that makes them feel empowered to start their own business and then lead others, right? It's a continuing cycle of leadership. We come into the business, we learn from those who came before us, we adapt, we educate ourselves, we learn new skills, and then we develop ourselves into leaders. Then we do that exact same cycle with the people that we bring into this business, right? And if we do that successfully, we're going to build a very successful business, because that just keeps building as you go down the line, right? And so it's really first and foremost about leading ourselves and changing our mindset, changing the way that we're thinking about this business, and not thinking about it as maybe a financial endeavor, but more as a personal development endeavor and a leadership endeavor to really help other people in whatever facet of life they came from, believing that whatever they want to achieve is possible. We talked about Project Possible the other day, 14 peaks. I thought that was a great lesson. And it's a great lesson for everybody on here that we can achieve whatever we want to achieve. And as leaders, we should be helping people on our teams achieving whatever level it is that they want to achieve.
Consider the fact that even just on this call, we've got young people, old people, don't look at me, but old people. We've got men, we've got women, we've got all kinds of different trajectories in life, and we're trying to make a team. We're trying to form a unified way of thinking of success. And everybody's got a different background, and everybody's got different family responsibilities and so on. So it's extremely difficult to try and harmonize and make a team really work cohesively. And the first thing we have to do is think about a clear plan, create a clear curriculum. Dan last week put out a little time chart about dividing your time into certain slots and be successful and be dedicated to those time slots and achieve what you want to for those priorities that you have at that time. So if you're going to go cycling, be cycling and cycle for whatever time that is, and just do that. And then what other time slot we have. So we've got to have a clear plan of what it is that we want to do. So if we have that clear plan, and then we adjudicate the effort in that time slot to what we're doing, then we will be good at everything we do in those time slots. So we become good at doing something, but we've got to adjudicate the time correctly.
Yeah, I mean, really, when I came into this business, the one thing that kind of concerned me was that we didn't really have a clear curriculum. And now we have a lot of tools available to us. I mean, the healthcare forums are phenomenal. We have Dr. Moore's done a phenomenal job with the scan operator workbook. We created the Getting Started handbook. And all of that is in an effort to have a clear plan, right? So we can get people up and moving forward quickly without having to ask us a million questions and get that from every single person that we bring into the business, right? We want to make this as personalized as we can while being for the masses, so that we don't get bogged down with these constant questions, the same questions from everybody we bring into the business. So those tools are a utility that we can utilize to help us be more efficient in what we're doing. And so having a clear curriculum is very important, and a clear onboarding process is very important to what we're doing, and it's very important in anything you're doing. And then, along with that, you really have to make the material matter. We have to be keeping things fresh, but we have to keep it relevant, right? We have to be able to adjudicate what people need to do, how they need to do it, and give them some kind of direction to do that, right? It can't be incomplete, it can't be vague or nonsensical. It has to make sense to these people to expedite the learning. And to do that, we need to create detailed documents, videos, pictures that demonstrate or lay out the details of every step in a logical order so that it makes sense to the most amount of people, right? And Lawrence made some notes on here, and I'm going to steal his thunder a little bit, but he said, remember, some people are visual, some people are auditory. Everybody learns in a different way. And so we also have to have these materials, these documents, this curriculum in forms that kind of are for the masses, and meaning that they have to be in different forms because different people learn different ways. So you have to understand the person that you are training.
Yeah, exactly. And that is where leadership comes in, where we're not just dumping a bunch of information to everybody, but we are able to communicate clearly with that person with empathy. This is another big word that, in my opinion, is key to everything, because it's one thing to say, do this, and this is how you do it. It's the other thing to understand that person that we're talking to, and who is that person, and how can we best get that person to really engage. And that is where we have to feel from that person's point of view as well. And we can do it on a big scale. We're doing it on Zoom. That's what we're doing now. And that's when we have our calls and our team calls and so on, where we're able to communicate even the most intimate details of what we're doing and our successes and failures. But the system has to be, there has to be that curriculum, that plan of action, and then the materials are there for us all to follow.
Yeah, and we need to also be cognizant of presenting with a purpose and a passion, right? We need to make this process fun. We need to add humor, visual storytelling to really encode these messages. And so, when we're talking to people about this business, whether it be the social sharing part of it or whether it's the scanner part of it, we need to do it with purpose and passion. We're not going to get anybody excited about this business talking about it in a monotone voice, not changing our expression, not showing our enthusiasm for the topic, right? We have to bring that passion to what we're doing. And that's something that Lawrence does phenomenally well. And I think we can all learn from Lawrence. It's not, we aren't born with this passion. We have it do have it within us, but we have to figure out how we can utilize that passion to create that passion in others and create that purpose, right? We all have a different purpose, but helping people find that purpose is part of this business as well. Why do they want to do it? Is it financial? Is it they want to help people? Whatever it may be, we need to help them find that purpose, because not everybody has that purpose defined within them. They have it, they just don't know where to grasp it and show it to the world, right? And so we need to help bring that out to people. in people, right? And then we need to show them how to be really passionate about helping others. I genuinely think that people, have this innate want and need to help other people, but some people don't know how to do that, right? And having that purpose is one way, and bringing that purpose out is one way of bringing that out in that person and showing them how to express that passion to other people, right? And if we can do that, if we can exponentially do that, if everybody on this call can go out and get 10 people and create that passion and show them that purpose, and then those 10 people go get 10 people, think about the effect we can have on the entire world.
And it's finding that passion, finding the passion within ourselves, because we're all in this business for one reason or another. Some of us are in for time freedom, some of us are in for the money, some of us are in for being able to have flexibility of where we work from or how we work, etc., etc. But the common denominator has to be something that inspires the passion. There has to be a passion in whatever we do in life, in my opinion, to be successful. And if we couple that with discipline and so on, that's all part of it. But again, as Dan was saying, to humanize this thing is like we've got to understand that stories sell, facts tell. So if we through our experiences can go through our failures and our tribulations and how we overcame them, in some way we can reach people's common denominator there. And the big thing is also always ask questions. Ask lots of questions to the people we're talking to find out from them. It's not what we want them to know, it's what they need to know. But we got to find that out from them. So, lectures are something that are just dumping. But a lecture has to be a lecture. There has to be a communication that is interconnected with the person, with the people that we're talking to. And the way to do that is also to try and make light of our failures. We always seem to think that failure is a failure. It's not. Failure is a great thing. It's wonderful. It's experience. It's something that we need to learn from. And we need to make light of that and say, great, you failed. Fabulous. Good job. That's the go for no thing. How many go for no's? How many no's can you get? So mixing it around a bit, but that's what I'm just want to say.
Yeah, you need to humanize your story and how you tell that story with purpose and passion, and not being afraid to tell your story. That's one of the biggest fears that a lot of people have is, everybody has a great story, and it may or may not resonate with everyone, but it's going to resonate with some, right? And so you can't be afraid to tell your story. Kate, my partner, she has a really great story of overcoming a lot in the last 5 to 7 years with an ex-partner, her ex-husband, and it's just been a real big struggle for her. And she told her story to somebody the other day, and her mother could not believe that she told another person her story. And I'm like, you need to tell your story. Number one, you need, there's something that can be learned from each and every one of our stories, and you can help other people with your story. You're not going to help everybody, but you're going to help some people. So, we also need to let the learners lead the learning. We try to make this call interactive. We always ask questions at the end. You're always welcome to chime in with whatever you have to add to the conversation. And every single one of you on this call has something to add. Statistically, lectures are the least effective method for content delivery. People get bored very fast. They lose interest or get distracted. They ultimately retain less information because lectures are just not a very good way or effective method. So we don't want to lecture to you on these calls. We want this to be interactive. We want this to be an interconnection between all of us. And, hopefully, this grows into having more and more people on this call. But, the last thing that we want to talk about is you have to reinforce all of this information with repetition and response. Just because the material's been presented to whoever we're talking to about the business, and the discussion is done, doesn't mean your job as a teacher is finished, right? We need to be constantly be learning. We need to constantly be teaching. We need to constantly be leading. That job is never done. That's a constant thing in our lives that happens every minute of every single day. So set up opportunities where your learner can actually perform the tasks in real time, i.e. integrating the scanner into their business, i.e. helping your team members mentor them to educate others on what we're doing, and ultimately lead others.
I've got some guests here from Canada right now, and we were talking about influencers. And the lady was telling me that there's an Italian influencer that was recording her husband with pancreatic cancer in the hospital. And she was saying, I think that's a terrible thing to do. And I thought, wow, that's the humanization of that person. And it's where empathy comes. People can see it, they feel it. And if you can transmit that, whatever it is that you're trying to transmit, in this case, it was to say, look, this is my pain. My husband has got pancreatic cancers in the hospital, and there he is, and oh my gosh. And, on the one side, you say, but that's an invasion of your privacy. Yes, of course it is. But at the same time, it's creating an understanding and being able to get the other people to see that we're all humans. There's no difference between us. It's just how we drive our vehicle of life. And so, the empathy, understanding and evaluating of who we're talking to, and being able to be open about it. There are a whole bunch of points that need to, competencies, as Dan's put down here, capturing the 12 competencies for leading others. Empathy, understanding and evaluating others, presenting skills, the ability to communicate effectively, written communications, ability to articulate written message. These are just some of the points that are there. And persuasion. I don't believe in persuasion. I believe that speaking with passion trumps trying to convince. I don't believe in trying to convince anybody or persuade anybody to do anything. If you're passionate about something, you're passionate enough, they will follow you. And that's one of the things. And actually, Dr. Joe Scalia is on the call, and he's an example of that. He decided he wanted to lose, 50 pounds, and he started a program. And that's what he did. He took that program and led the way. And now he's got a whole bunch of people following him on how he did it. And it's a daily thing. Always see the other person's point of view to strengthen your own. When we negotiate. Dan, I'm sorry, I'm stealing some of your thunder.
Go ahead, it's fine.
So, we're looking at the 12 points that are in this thing here. We're talking about, negotiation. Negotiation is just simply seeing the other person's point of view. If you understand the other person's point of view, really see it, you will reach a conclusion, because it's no use having a situation where there's no winners. Sorry, Dan, you're getting some really good stuff there. I hope you share it with everybody. I want to know what's going on.
I can't help it. I was just looking. I was just looking at some of your notes. And under teamwork, it says the ability to work cooperatively with others to achieve group objectives. And Lawrence has in here in the notes. I can't say it. You have to say it, Lawrence.
What is it? What was that?
It's at the bottom under teamwork in those 12 competencies for leading. I want to hear this story.
Which one was that?
The story.
Yeah, we all have to hear it. We all have to hear it.
Dan, you'll have to remind me.
I'm sorry. It's the story. You have in the notes here the story of the anus.
Okay. Well, okay. So here's the teamwork. This is the story of the teamwork. I used to have a lot of people. I had 300 and some employees, and and there was always conflict of the people in the office and the people in the field. People in the office thought the people in the field had it done because they were always having fun out in the sunshine, and the people in the field were always complaining about how nice it is for the people in the office in the air conditioning. So I talked about teamwork, and this is how we bring the body into it. And it's also leadership and so on. So one day, the brain said, I need to be boss, because without me, the rest of the body will shut down. And the lungs said, no, we've got to be boss, because without us, nothing's going to happen. And then the kidneys said, no, we have to be boss, because without us, nothing's going to happen. And all the organs of the body went through saying that they had to be boss, until finally the anus stood up and said, well, actually, you guys have got it all wrong, because if I bung up, then that's the end of everything. The moral of this is that any anus could be a boss, could be a leader, but it takes the whole team to work for the body to work completely. So that's a bit crude, but it kind of it makes the point of how this, we all have to work together, because it's not just one or the other, or somebody that's great and somebody that's not. They all have to work together, and this is what teamwork is.
Sorry, that kind of caught me off guard. I hadn't looked at the notes that deeply, and so I apologize for my reaction to that. But it just caught me off guard. But any questions from anybody about anything that we talked about today? I think there was some good material that we covered.
I've got a comment. Lawrence and I talked about this, about a year ago, and you're talking about passion and being able to show your enthusiasm for something. It really, in a lot of cases, it comes back to ego. Ego can be ego is a major factor in someone's success. We're brought up, not to be too emotional, not to show people, because, oh my gosh, if you make a mistake, people are going to laugh at you or think you're silly or something. And that carries on in everyday life. Bruce Lee had a quote, I can't remember it word for word: never think or say anything negative about yourself, because you're convincing yourself that fact is true. So, when you are passionate and you believe in something, you really need to convey that to other people. And I know I had an issue with that years ago. Maybe I still do a little bit, but ego really can be a major hurdle to overcome in any business, any endeavor.
That's a really good point, Michael, and I totally agree. We need the ego to drive us forward, but we've also got to have the humility, be humble enough to humanize ourselves in the light of everybody else. So it's a fine line, but if we're really certain about who we are, and those are that's where we get to gain. Who are you? How well do you know yourself? And what do you want? Those are the three fundamental questions that, in my opinion, are key to everything. And the ego, I 100% agree with you. We often don't do things because the ego gets in the way, or we don't do them well because ego gets in the way.
Dr. Joe has his hand up.
Yes, thank you, guys. Hello from Baja Mar in the Bahamas. These vacations are better when the company pays for them, but I'm not there yet, but I will be, I promise. First of all, the systemization of the success and what we're doing here, it fosters confidence. And we've been listening to Kevin Hall lately because he's been on the Millionaire Mindset call, and I've been rereading his book. Confidence means going with trust, right? Confidence, fidelity, trust. So having a system that we all believe in, it really helps us engage and have more of a buy-in when it comes to that. That's just a little note on the tools, the fly-ins, these calls. I have a confession. I've never really realized how important they are over the years, but I see how much of a facilitator makes things easy, facile, right? Makes it easy for us to do this business more. So I appreciate all the work that goes into this. I don't know if Lawrence realized it, but he knows the way I am, and my mind thinks sometimes. Making light of failures, that's a double entendre, right? It's light, but it's also love and light when you're giving blessings to people. So failures actually give you blessings to actually do better. And I'm doing the whole thing with the words. Perspective is to look at things how people look at things. Perspective, the way they see it. Spect means to look. And I was in the pool here the other day, and I met a financial advisor who graduated from Cornell, and he met his wife there. And I started obviously talking about what I have purpose and passion in, as Lawrence mentioned, about doing a little task of saving the planet from their own metabolism. And we just started talking about that. And he's like, you got to do a YouTube video or something like that. He goes, you're really good with this. He goes, it's important to meet people where they are. And I think that's what we do as a team here, collectively it's like you just mentioned with ego, Michael. It's like we could go ahead and sit here and lecture to people. And in a way, yeah, lecture is the least effective way of teaching things, but it's still effective to a point. So you get the lecture at school, then you go do the discussion, then you do the hands-on in the lab. That's how we learn in college, right? You hear it, you see it, and then you actually do the lab with the chemistry, and then you learn it. So the hands-on, embracing to learn in real time with those opportunities, hands-on literally with the scanner. Sorry, I'm still going there, but everything is hands-on. It's a hands-on opportunity. But meeting people where they are is so important as what we're doing here as leaders, financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically. And that's what we're doing as a team. And I'm just proud of what we're doing here. I like the fact that we have a mission, we have a purpose. And every time I hear you, Dan, I can't wait to meet you in person, buddy. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Good stuff.
I would have loved to have come down to Baja Mar to meet you down there, but I didn't get an invite.
It's all right. It's 35 minutes away. You don't need an invite. You just need a plane. You have an invite to my house. That should count.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. All right, everybody. Any other comments before we wrap it up?
Just a quick thought. Failure is a very necessary step towards success. And what's interesting is if you look at the corporate environment, very few corporations really in depth examine their successes, but they absolutely dissect down to the last tiny piece their failures. And I think you learn far more from your failures. You put in far more future infrastructure from your failures than you do from your successes. And I think one of the things which is a hallmark of this group is that the cumulative learning has been learning from creating success, and therefore from creating a replicable business model, which is what Stephen's 2 brilliant documents are all about. And I think that's very important. Final thought. I took a course a few years ago with a gentleman who talked about the power of words. And I know Kevin Hall very well. And it wasn't with him, it was with a friend of his. And he said something which I thought was very important, because our self-talk is absolutely pivotal in how we create our mindset, which enables us to move forward. But what this gentleman said was, if I spoke to you as harshly as you spoke to yourself, could we still be friends? I think that's worth really thinking about. Words have power.
Yeah,
they cast spells, and that's maybe why they call it spelling.
Could be. So, it's self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If you're continually telling yourself that you're not good enough, if you're continually telling yourself that you don't deserve to succeed or that you don't deserve something, it's mindset, right? You created that self-fulfilling
You're never going to get it.
You'll never get what you want if you have that outlook. If you have the outlook that you're going to be successful, that you're going to overcome all obstacles, that you're going to learn from failures, you're more than likely going to reach your goals. And so, along with that, you
said something very interesting there, Dan. You'll never get what you want. Let's look at that word. Be careful with your words. Want. What does want mean? It means lack. Why don't we substitute there? You'll never get what you desire or what you deserve.
Good point. And for failure, I just want to point out, for failure, you have to have experiences, right? And so it's because of those experiences that you experience and the experiences that you have that you're going to encounter failure. And I wanted to share a quick quote with you guys, and I don't want to mess it up. It's a C.S. Lewis quote. Experience is a brutal teacher. but you learn. My God, do you learn?
Yeah.
So, all right, with that, we're going to wrap it up. It's great to have Lawrence back. Thank you, everybody, for interacting with us today. Really appreciate it. It makes it much more fulfilling when we hear from you guys. Lawrence, thanks for being here. You're welcome for me allowing you to still continue to participate. And we'll see everybody next Friday. Lots of great things going on. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Blessings.
Have a great
everybody.
weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Great
you.
call.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.